Today, hello everyone, a short video on the physiology of dry fasting. We haven't talked much about it. I am often asked, what is dry fasting? So today we are going to break down simple things to understand what happens in the body when we stop drinking and eating. We will take a look. We will break down the therapeutic effects. So this is a segment I call Dry Fasting for Dummies. Understand a bit about the physiology of a method of internal self-healing. There you go. So dry fasting is not a miracle. It is not an extreme feat. It is not a competition. We do not compare ourselves to others. We often see people in detox programs. They will try to compare themselves. It's a lost cause because we all function differently. Let's say there are 20 people in a group. We have 20 different metabolisms. We have different needs. We don't burn fat the same way. We don't deplete our water the same way. Some people retain their water better than others, and so on. Some will lose weight quickly, others won't. So we can never compare ourselves to one another. It's completely impossible. That's why dry fasting is not a method for everyone. Follow a protocol with 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, all the same, and you'll see the results you get afterward. So it's not like that. Protocols in dry fasting are useless. Dry fasting must be individualized for each person. Some people will do 2 days, some will do 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days. Depending on what happens, the events, the crises during dry fasting, one cannot predict in advance what will occur for a person during their fast. So these testimonies, these videos you have here are based on practice, on experience. This is not theory with people you can see who are in offices and who explain things to you about dry fasting when they have never actually accompanied a person or groups in reality. There are people who write books about dry fasting. They have never practiced dry fasting themselves. They have never guided anyone. So there is a world of difference between someone who theorizes and those who are in practice, who see people with experience, expertise, and guidance. There you have it. That makes all the difference. So dry fasting is an ancient method that our ancestors knew. It can be found in sacred texts. It can be found in religions, everything that is Ramadan, Arab medicine, Jewish medicine. We find the use of dry fasting. It's not something new that just appeared out of nowhere. Many people practice dry fasting. We ourselves, during the night while fasting, when we sleep for 10 hours, we are dry fasting without knowing it. We dry fast every day. We are perfectly equipped, we human beings, to endure periods of scarcity, of dry fasting, of regeneration. It is an ancient physiological strategy, logical, coherent, profound, rooted in the biology of living beings, of our inner selves. So, we are equipped, we have a genetic system designed for fasting, for resting, for renewal. It's part of our genetic code. There you go. So we are not in the realm of promises, marketing speeches, etc. We are in coherence, in practice, in dry fasting. And then we will ask ourselves a simple question. What happens in the body when we cut off liquids, when we cut off water, liquids, and food? What will happen in the body? So why is it so effective? If it's well supervised, if things are well conducted from the preparation during the dry fasting phase, and especially the exit, which is, I would say, 70% of the success of a dry fast, it's the exit. How are you going to bring all that back up? If you don't break the fast properly, you won't reap the benefits. Dry fasting is a double-edged sword. If it's done correctly, it enhances you with all the benefits that follow. If it's done incorrectly, you could suffer consequences. There are people who have had problems because they mismanaged, they broke the fast improperly, they did it wrong, and then there are side effects. That's why we ask people to be serious about this practice, not to do just anything. to monitor their vital signs, to keep an eye on their physiological state during dry fasting, and especially to ensure a clean exit, supervised with suitable foods, avoiding overindulgence, etc. So, it's a powerful tool for repair, rest, and regeneration if done correctly. So, what exactly is dry fasting? A period without food, without water intake. Basically, no calories, no water. No digestive stimulation. I remind you, there are two types of fasting on the planet. There are no others. Either dry fasting or water fasting, where you consume 0 calories. Water diets, unfortunately, are not fasting. There is deception. Marketing diet, I don't know, where they try to sell you fasting while you're on diets where you consume calories. Consuming calories is not fasting. These are diets, what we call low-calorie diets. You have a lot of that in France. So you must make the distinction. I'm not saying that juice diets have no effect, but you cannot compare water fasting and dry fasting to juice diet cures, which are far below in terms of therapeutic effects. So you have to make the distinction when talking about fasting. It's dry fasting with water. The rest are low-calorie diets, like juice cures with broths, things like that. It's not fasting. We must be very clear about the terminology to avoid creating confusion because people go to centers. They think they are fasting, but in fact it's not fasting. There you go. They have caloric intake, so everything is slowed down. Autophagy is slowed down. Cellular renewal that you don't have. You don't have any anti-infectious effect. You cannot treat infections like Lyme disease, compact diarrhea by doing juice cures. It's totally impossible. There you go. It has wellness effects, but we must distinguish between dry fasting and water fasting, and the rest it's not fasting. We need to be very precise with the terms we use. So dry fasting no longer has any external intake. Therefore, it must function solely on internal resources, which will prompt the body to mobilize and adapt to the environment we impose on it. And then that's the miracle of dry fasting. It will reorganize itself. That's where the physiological law of dry fasting begins. The medicine of common sense, as it's called. Less intake, reduced to zero. Zero intake, there's no intake, nothing comes in. And then, of course, there will be more of a repair phenomenon. The more constraints you impose, the more it will repair afterwards. There you have it. It's the medicine of Hippocrates. So it's a fundamental principle that is dominant. First principle of Hippocrates, first, do no harm. And often, doing no harm simply means stopping the overload. When we eat constantly, the body digests, absorbs, stores, eliminates. There is no break. Fasting, in particular, dry fasting, offers the body something rare. It's a biological rest, less intake, more resources available for repair. So the body's first reaction is homeostasis. As soon as water intake stops, the hypothalamus, the brain's regulation center, detects an increase in blood osmolarity. The message is quite clear. So external resources are cut off. The brain orchestrates then a rapid, intelligent, coordinated hormonal response. So it gets set up. There is a physiological reorganization that is implemented. And then we have the first key hormone that is activated, which is vasopressin, also known as the antidiuretic hormone. Its role is simple. It limits urine loss. It concentrates the urine. It conserves every molecule of water. The kidneys switch to maximum economy mode. It's not a failure. It's a perfectly programmed survival adaptation. I remind you that there are scientific studies on dry fasting, on 5-day dry fasts, which have perfectly shown a rest for the kidney, even an improvement in renal factors like creatinine, etc. So dry fasting is rather a rest for the kidney. And as long as you are urinating, it's already a good sign. There's no problem. So there's never any dehydration during dry fasting. And then the kidney functions very well. Glycogen, how long does it last? Before burning fat, the body uses its own sugar reserves called glycogen, mainly stored in the liver muscle. Hepatic glycogen lasts approximately between 12 and 24 hours, sometimes up to 36 hours depending on the individual, their activity and diet. Once these reserves are depleted, the body is forced to change strategy. So this is where the real metabolic therapeutic dry fasting begins to take effect. So we will slow down to better repair the thyroid. Contrary to popular belief, the body does not collapse. It slows down during dry fasting. It is a general physiological metabolic slowdown. So that's why we're feeling a bit down. We have a slowdown that is intended by nature, and the thyroid adapts its functioning according to the restrictions. So it is a complete nonsense to give thyroid hormones during a dry fast. It is totally counterproductive because there is inevitably a decrease in the conversion of T4 to T3. During the dry fast, we are in slow motion, so it is a deliberate reduction in energy expenditure. This slowdown is protective and it is not pathological. It is normal to have thyroid slowdowns during a dry fast. Afterwards, I will not go into the details of medications for people with hypothyroidism, those kinds of underlying conditions. I will not go into those details. There is support to be provided for people who consume medication. There is a strategy that is individualized according to the person. In short, then we switch to fats. We create clean energy. Once glycogen is depleted, the body turns to its most stable, most efficient, and most enduring reserves. It's the fats. These are oxidized in the mitochondria to produce energy. It's a slow, clean fuel and sustainable. This is where ketogenesis begins. We burn fats. The liver produces ketone bodies. There are three ketone bodies. They are acetoacetate, acetone, and especially the one we are interested in. It is, of course, BHB, beta-hydroxybutyrate, if I'm not mistaken, in the name which becomes the brain's main fuel during the entire fast. The brain then functions much more stably. Everything is calmer. Afterwards, we have these BDNF secretions, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. We repair the brain that is damaged. For all neurodegenerative diseases, dry fasting is king. It will repair you, especially when it's just starting, when you have small early-stage pathologies. That works very, very well. You will undergo neurogenesis. You rebuild yourself through the ketone bodies that are abundant. It's much more powerful than a ketogenic diet. You have many more ketone bodies. So the brain is calmer. You have this mental clarity when you are in dry fasting, especially when you come out of dry fasting. And then you cut those sugar dependencies that are pathological. I remind you, people who are drawn to sugar, you need to cut that out. And then dry fasting is a good springboard to start a cleanse. You start again on a good foundation afterward. That's quite interesting. Then we create metabolic water. It's the core of dry fasting, the production of endogenous water. It's clean water. This is often a misunderstood point. We say we dehydrate. So when we burn fat, we don't just produce energy, we produce water. So what we call metabolic water on average is 1 kilogram of fat making about 1.1 liters of water on average. So the body creates its own internal hydration from its reserves. Also know that it's not just fat, but around the liver you have 2 liters of water. The body is 80% water. So there's water everywhere. It's not just in the fats. We have inputs everywhere, mainly in the fat. But then each organ, each area, it's water. So we're never really dehydrated. Of course, we shouldn't exaggerate this hydration by going out in the sun. There are things to know when you embark on a dry fast. Don't do just anything. There are fundamentals we explain. And then we're often there watching the group. If we see people making mistakes, we observe, we watch. And then we give the appropriate advice to prevent such accidents from happening with people who exert themselves too much physically, who do all sorts of strange things during the dry fasts. We've seen it all. We've seen people do all sorts of antics during dry fasting. That's why we need to explain and answer questions. There are always surprises that come up. So we return to our internal hydration. So we're never really dehydrated. In fact, we are always creating metabolic water. More or less, it depends on the person. It varies between 300 to 700 milliliters per day. It depends on the person. So dry fasting is physically possible in the long term. Everything is individualized. We can't predict distances in advance. Do 4 days, 5 days, 10 days, whatever. But going beyond 9 days isn't very interesting. The therapeutic effects occur between the third and ninth day. You have an enormous amount of therapeutic effects, an enormous amount of well-being effects. And then, of course, you have this hormone IGF-1, a growth and repair hormone. When we eat, it is very high. The body is in construction mode. During dry fasting, your IGF-1 decreases, this growth hormone increases. So these are the principles of dry fasting. You have this hormone that starts to come into play, and then the stem cells behind that will repair them. So the body stops building new things to repair the existing ones. It's the principle of intelligent recycling. Then autophagy, cellular cleaning, energy stress, and water stress combined strongly stimulate autophagy. So autophagy, I remind you, is the great principle of fasting, water fasting, dry fasting. To eliminate damaged cells, to recycle defective proteins, that's really the core. And then to clean the mitochondria, which is called mitophagy. So it allows an energy recycling. That's why afterwards you have mitochondria that function like new. So you have much more energy. You feel it when you finish a dry fast. You are a young man when you've rejuvenated by about 10 years. So I laugh because I saw a show about France, about people who want to live to 100 years. It's absolutely nonsense. You see them getting stem cell injections. They endlessly inject all sorts of products, taking 25,000 dietary supplements. It's a total aberration. In fact, these people, they're going to mess themselves up. After a while, we'll see in 50 years how they will age. They are orthorexic. They are in a cult. These are people, it's pathological. I watched this show, it was a bit unsettling to see. And they never mentioned fasting in all of that. Whereas it's one of the key principles, I would say, of rejuvenation. To age well, create stem cells, produce growth hormones, eliminate waste, toxins. Fasting is number one. And you have zero people who talked about fasting during this 1 hour report on rejuvenation, longevity. It really made me laugh when I watched this show. I said they are completely off topic. They didn't understand that it's not about adding things, it's mostly about reducing elements, finding common sense again. By connecting with nature, maintaining a balanced diet, and not injecting tons of products. Synthetic dietary supplements will not bring you well-being and increased longevity. It's all marketing. You go to centers that sell you incredible things at exorbitant prices. 4,000 euros for a 2 hour assessment is madness. If people knew about fasting, they could save a lot of money. Autophagy, we're coming back to it. The body sorts, cleans, and optimizes. Then dry fasting doesn't necessarily boost immunity. It calms and rebalances it. Less digestion, less inflammation, that's what interests us the most. If you have a Chiarpus and the Treve, let's imagine you have chromatin polyarthritis. There was a gap. We know you have a very inflammatory phenomenon. Pinch the dry fast. No more inflammation. It cut off those pro-inflammatory cytokines. It decreases drastically. Some excessive immune responses can normalize. It's a rest period. It's not forced stimulation. Dry fasting is a regulation by homeostasis. We restore a level, a balance. Then the internal terrain is microorganistic. It's the key principle of dry fasting. Many pathogens love what's rich, sugar, food, etc. Humidity, inflammation. Dry fasting profoundly changes this terrain. Fewer nutrients, less water available, more adaptive pressure. The terrain becomes less favorable for pathogens. It's not a miracle cure, it's another complementary terrain. You will dry out your pathogens. That's why we have a lot of results on conditions like Lyme disease, Helicobacter, candidiasis, all infections, whether bacterial, viral, or parasitic. If done correctly, you have a method that can work, which can spectacularly replace antibiotics if done correctly. I remind you, if done correctly, and not something whimsical, you must know exactly what you're doing. And then we help ourselves with intelligent dietary supplements. There are strategies. We use dry fasting. If we've tried everything and nothing worked, but then we don't shy away from plants, homeopathy, phytotherapy, etc. Mushrooms, there are strategies to know. All of this is individualized. Liver, gut, brain, it's a central axis during dry fasting. The brain coordinates, the liver becomes the metabolic center. The gut is put to rest, so it will promote the excretion of waste. And especially after refeeding, it will rebuild itself. We have mucous membranes that will renew, regenerate. We will find a functional new gut that will repair itself. So this digestive rest allows for a complete reduction of intestinal inflammation and leads to reparative phenomena afterwards through stem cells, through rest. That's how it works. Refeeding is the most important phase. It's 70-80% of dry fasting. So we need to rebuild behind slowly. That's why we're doing a gentle restart. Gentle, we mustn't go too fast. We shouldn't give sugar. Sugar raises insulin, directly cuts off autophagy, tires the metabolism. We don't give sugar or carbohydrate products after a dry fast. I know many fasting centers do it. We don't do that. So we need to have a gentle, gradual restart, low in carbohydrates. Then afterwards, those who want to resume little by little can reintroduce their carbohydrates. But in any case, we leave at least 3 days of restart without carbohydrates. Then afterwards, those who want to recharge with carbohydrates, those who want to continue with that, but intelligent carbohydrates, clean carbohydrates, not processed carbohydrates, etc. There you go. We're not going to go into detail on this subject. So dry fasting, why does it work? Because it adheres to the principles of life, simple principles. Do not overload, allow the body to perform its internal surgery, let the body do its work. It knows, it is intelligent, it knows how to heal itself, it knows how to cleanse itself. We support, we do not force. It is a medicine of common sense based on the observation of life. Dry fasting is a voluntary stress. It must be short, measured, personalized, supervised, according to each individual. Understanding physiology never means trivializing the practice. Dry fasting is not a trend, it is not an ancient tool. Yes, it is a powerful, logical tool when it is well understood and respected. It does not replace medicine. It does not oppose it. There you go. When I talk about medicine, it's about smart medicine, functional medicine. Then there's the push-button medicine, where a protocol is given based on the symptom one has. For me, that's not really interesting medicine, except for emergencies. That's something else. You've saved lives. That's indisputable. There's no joking about that. But the kind of medicine where people are stuffed with drugs without understanding the underlying causes, well, that's what you might call Mickey Mouse medicine. So it's a type of medicine that is being seriously questioned. And those who practice functional medicine, that's better. It's the level where we search for the causes. That's definitely more intelligent. So there you have it. The fasting sex is a method of terrain homeostasis and rebalancing. And there you have it, this little capsule to explain the physiological phases. I hope it helped you understand these phases a bit. Physiological in fasting. So it's simple, you just have to let the body do its thing, and then we know how to do it. That's all for today. See you soon. Bye-bye.